Welcome to Off the Field, the Business of Sport podcast at Manor College. The purpose of these sessions is to educate and inspire those students looking to work in the world of sports. So I'm excited to have our next guest today. This is a buddy of mine who I've known for a long time, and I just think is really an interesting story about taking a passion for sports, taking a passion for a team, and turning it into a business. So please welcome and thanks for joining us, Gail Saunders.
Yeah, man. First and foremost, it's an honor to be here at and speak to Manor College and your students. It's this we both share a love of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's kind of how it brought us together. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun when we consider that a lot of the people that I've worked with now and have worked with in the past all come from just these sort of like degrees of separation, and a lot of it is sports related, and so that's how we met through the Eagles connections and gotten to know each other, and really I think you just have a really unique story, and one that actually is really relevant to young adults now in college as they're looking to go into a career and trying to figure out what they want to do, for their career as it relates to sports. And so I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on and have you speak to our students today. So why don't we first start off? Why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about your background? So where did you come from? What did you do, and how did you sort of start this podcast?
Well, I went to Western Connecticut State University, played football there for 4 years. Always been into sports, into media. As a kid, as a teenager in high school, I always envisioned myself working at MTV Networks or MTV. Long story short, end up landing a job at MTV after I graduated college. Through people that I've met along the way, just how a lot of things have happened in my life. They just happened, and I really can't explain how they happened. They just happened. And long story short, we're here 21 years later. I'm still working with Viacom, CBS, working with MTV, Nickelodeon, BET. Been a great ride working in entertainment. Started off wanting to do a lot of different things, like whether at first I wanted to be a cameraman. That was always my thing. Used to carry a camera with me when I was a teen for no reason. Before there was cell phone cameras, I was the guy that carried a real camera with me everywhere. So I've got amazing footage from back in the day. But just working in entertainment, I've learned that you can do a lot of things. Whether it's I've produced and directed some commercials for MTV. I've acted in short films. I've done a couple short comedies for film festivals and stuff like that. I work in business and legal affairs department with Viacom CBS, so I got to see the lay of the land of how deals were made. I've been pitching shows for the last decade, trying to get my own shows off the ground, which is very hard. But when you're behind the scenes, you see how I work with a development team every day, so you see how deals are made, how deals are set up. So I've seen the back end of a lot of Hollywood, and it's been an amazing ride. I've always wanted to get into sports, so this is something that a lot of people can gravitate to, even students. I wanted to get back into sports. I ended up doing my own blog. NBC Sports had found me after about 4 or 5 years of doing my own thing. Again, another story that I don't have, another story that it's very hard to explain, but I ended up bumping into the guy who ran NBC Sports Roto World at a Christmas party. He saw my work, and next thing you know, he hired me to be a draft analyst for NBC Sports. So working for NBC Sports and MTV, I was doing that at the same time. It was my dream job, being a draft analyst. Amazing. Something I was working for a long time. And then I got to a point where, again, in media, you see shifts in the media. So I decided to start my own thing, because I felt like I wanted to be closer to the fans and do something different with social media. And I think social media, as you can see today, is very personal, very it's very authentic. It's very, you can make really solid connections with people that believe in what you're doing. Linked up with my old partner, who was he was a Eagles influencer. I'm the draft analyst. We formed our own podcast called Fourth and Jawn, which became a blog and became a little of a tailgate movement. But it was, at the end of the day, getting Eagle fans closer to the team that they love. So not only were we having, there's this talk of, you have your own language as an Eagle fan. We all have this language, a secret language. So we were speaking the secret language of the fan base, and it connected. It connected with Eagle fans. It connected with people that wanted to come to an Eagles game. We formed this tailgate to, take care of our listeners, and people had a great time. They didn't understand why we were doing this for free. I ended up landing a partnership with Bud Light. Bud Light funds our podcast and helps us with helps us with the beer. And then we formed a partnership with Conchi Bakery, and we bring their tomato pies. So it's a great time. But overall, you're having these conversations and meeting really authentic people along the way. So that's the short story.
Okay. All right. So let's give the folks some context here. So you started Fourth and Jawn around what year was that?
2016. It was right before the Super Bowl run. So we were right in the thick of things, and having a podcast, Eagles podcast, during that Super Bowl run was really, it really helped us build our brand. But it was just amazing content that Super Bowl run year.
So locally, I gotta think that you were sort of on the forefront there in terms of podcasting, right? I mean, you might not have been, the first, but you're definitely in that what locally what I would consider sort of that early adopter, in terms of the pod, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we were one of the first couple of podcasts that were out there, and the fact that it was always a dream of mine to. Again, my family lives in, my dad's from the Philly area, and then he lives in Wilmington now. So he was getting older. So is this whole idea of pushing, when people ask what their why is and why they do, this has been, whether it's the Eagles, my family, whatever, it kind of like it pushed me to envision, hey, like I could work with NBC Philly one day. Our podcast gets picked up by NBC Philly after 2 years of, uh, in action, and that was pretty much a dream to me, like sitting next to a guy like Ray Didinger, who's my idol, and I'm in the green room. Like you wonder how you get to these moments. And again, another unexplainable moment is when they come to fruition, then it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So you guys, again, and my background in terms of, the business that I started, it all started as a passion for Philly sports, and turned it into now a full retail store. So, we work together on some things, and we've known each other for a long time. So you take a passion for the Eagles, you and E sort of come together with a common connection of Eagles football. And what was the original goal? Like, was it just to create content? Was it just to bring community together? What was sort of the initial plan when you first said, like, let's do this Fourth and Jawn? And maybe maybe you didn't even know what that meant at that point.
Well, it's kind of like, even the word Jawn is kind of like an inside thing for Philly. Like, and it was kind of what, Fourth and Jawn is like. It's kind of like our whole thing was based off like, it's like, if you know that word, then you understand, and it's bringing in these diehard fans. Like, we knew we were diehard fans, because there's fans, Eagle fans, and then there's diehard fans who will buy anything Eagles, will tell the stories to their youth, will keep the the Eagles tradition alive and well in their house. Like, this is a whole nother brand of Eagle fans that want to be closer. They want to get autographs. They want to meet and greet with the players. They want to know their backstories. They want to know what they do in their spare time. It's not just obviously it's about sports and knowing about the team. And, just having a partner who was a passionate guy like that, and me being super analytical and super nerdy about, the X's and O's of things. And it's just, we gave a little bit, a different side of, Eagles fandom that I don't think people were really, they didn't really realize that we were going to be that crazy. Like, as when we travel we follow the team, we go to any Eagle event we can. And then along the way, I started to mentor other writers and people, Eagles content creators. And we've had a couple guys that were there, one guy went to NFL Network. We got guys at PFF. Other people who started their own podcasts that have done fairly well. And it's, at the end of the day, for me, it was amazing to see other people pick up from where I've left. If they move on, it's kind of, we had built our own little farm team of writers and content creators and guys that have created their own movements, but it was all together. We all came up together, and it was great to see.
Yeah, that's and that's a great point. Because a lot of times I work with students that say, I want to work in marketing, or I want to work in PR, or I want to work in digital media, and all they think about is working for a team or a league, and they don't really consider, well, wait a minute, because I always say to them, well, like, you get to that point in life where you've got this dilemma of, well, how do I get hired if I don't get experience? And how do I get experience if I don't get hired? And my comments to them is always, look, have you ever considered starting your own blog? You ever considered starting your own podcast? And students sometimes look at me as confused about, like, what do you mean? And I go, wait a minute, you want to be a writer, you want to be a content creator, you want to be working in social media. Don't you think that is the ultimate sort of resume builder to say to a team or a league or any sports property that, hey, this is what I'm passionate about, and I just did it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that, like, I get, guys that are our age, are just like back in the day, like, there's gatekeepers to these things. There's levels to these things.
Right.
The gate has been wide open. Social media is wide open. You can start on any platform and start today. So that's the problem. That's the thing where you can start today. After this webinar here, you could start today. So I feel like, being a guy who's been there and done that, I started with a classmate that I went to high school, I grew up with. We both decided that we're going to do our own blog. Like, we had no idea like how this was going to work. Next thing you know, we're working with Shannon Sharp, Michael Vick, Warren Sapp, and it was pre the whole, everybody does these split screen things. I was doing this with, like, I'm trying to think what the program was, but we started doing split screen interviews with these athletes, and people are like, how did you get these people? Or what are you using? So this whole thing with just technology, you have to take advantage of the technology that is at your hands. To sit here and say that you can't do this, knowing that you have access to these things now that are even better. You can get the cameras that look studio quality. You have the editing suites that are studio quality. There's nothing holding you back. So coming from a grassroots approach and seeing what I did earlier, and then landing that job with NBC Sports, like, I always tell people, look, my partner at that time, he quit because he couldn't see the vision of getting that far. And when I got the job at NBC Sports, the first guy that called me was, hey man, do you think you could get me a job there? And I was like, bro, you quit. It's this whole idea of, like, this whole thing is not just a race. It's not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon. And I think, visualization is very key to your success, and seeing that you can, a lot of people don't see that they can, in their mind, that they can do what they want to do, but you can do what you want to do. If you can see it, you can definitely achieve it.
I think you hit on an important point early on, and I think it's one that sort of separates and differentiates Fourth and Jawn from other podcasts, is the authentic voice, right? it's fans for fans, right? And you guys sort of live that fandom. And, you know, I, I guess the question becomes for me a little bit is, how do you differentiate between being authentic and the economics of trying to run a business, right? Because you've gained a lot of followers, right? In terms of social media, in terms of subscribers to the podcast. You guys are, you know, one of the dominant sort of podcasts in this space in Philadelphia. But how do you sort of have that balance between being authentic and also commercializing it so that it's a viable business?
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes it's like you have to there's a lot of people that may want to work with you, but it is like when you control your own brand, you don't have to, like, you can do whatever you want to do. Like like if you're working for a corporation, you have to do what they say, or you have to conform your content to. And when we were with NBC Philly, it was a learning. It was definitely a learning moment for me. Working in entertainment, I know exactly how. Like when you have a brand, a new show or new how I was expecting more out of our relationship. Don't get me wrong, it was amazing to be in that space, but at the end of the day, when you were like we need more, or like you had to like have these moments where here I am at a job that like I've been dreaming for and had envisioned 5 years before it even happened, and now I'm ready to like leave because it's not going at the way I planned. So it's like I'm gonna have to like, we decided to like walk after our first year, and they said, why are you leaving? I was like, well, because I know there's certain things that we need that we're not getting. So I mean, you will have to make choices whether it's if you want to control your own destiny, if you want to, sometimes you'll have to sacrifice the monetary gains for just at the end of the night where you can sleep at night, or you're like, this is where I want this vision to go. Is it about the money for you? Is it about to building a culture and building something? Because you're some people, if your name's on something, like I take that personal because my name is on this. This is who I am. This is not just. It's not just a. For me, it's not just a brand. It's like when someone meets me at a tailgate or listens to me on a show, they know they're getting somebody that's the same person that I heard on the show, and he's the same person in reality, and the same person who's feeding me a tomato pie or offering me a Bud Light at a tailgate is the same person, and that resonates with your fans that actually support you. So whether it's buying a T-shirt to support, whether it's fans just coming in and want to donate something to what your cause is. I mean, it's been amazing. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me and just really, you talk about monetary things. You talk about, I was at a game 3 weeks ago at the Saints game. A person who listened to the show, her name was Maura. She was listening to the show. She said she was going through a lot of things during this pandemic. She's like, I was having a tough time. And she's like, your podcast got me through this pandemic. She was like in tears, kind of like, and she was sitting right behind me at a seat randomly. So it was just, those, you can't, that there's no, that's those things are priceless, those moments. So you meet a lot of great people on top of that. So when you talk about the business side of things, but you also talk about the personal relationships that you gain, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I actually echo that, so, obviously during COVID, you're at home, you're locked up, and you know, initially there was, no sports on at all. Right. And so, I do think about like, yeah, I think about that looking back on that time. I definitely during the NFL draft, I'm like, I got to tune in live to 4th and Jawn to hear people's reactions live, other Eagles fans, like what I would be doing with my buddies or what I would be doing at a party. Now I'm doing it, on my computer. And I think that's the year, right? I mean, we were in COVID when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had that was a to watch that online. The experience of drafting Jalen Hurts live was kind of
I
crazy.
mean, that
We had
was
like a
crazy. Like I remember like watching it on like it might have been a YouTube live, and there was chats and everything else, but we're getting ready for the second round pick, and it was like, oh my God, did this just happen? Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's just like yeah, you're right. I mean, that is where I think the digital side of it really kind of helped fill that gap that we missed just from a social, being social creatures when you can't get together with people and celebrate and talk to people. This is
yeah.
now, is it the future? Is this the future of
I think it is. We started using StreamYard before a lot of people started using StreamYard, and I was getting hit up from everyone like, where did you come up? Where did you? How do you? How like? What are you using? Because you're like bringing in a dude from a cell phone who's like cooking eggs and talking about the draft, and you guys are in your living rooms, and some dude's walking on the road and he's talking to you from self. Like, what do you guys use? I'm like, it's this technology that we're using. So it's just like these kind of opportunities. You thought like a regular studio facility has these capabilities, but the tides have turned. I mean, I just think there's so many different opportunities that you can create doing your own content with these streaming services. I mean, for us, again, like talking about like putting things in, we've got credentials for the Senior Bowl and for a draft analyst and a draft nut. Like this is for me, this is like I've worked 15 years to get to this moment to like be able to cover the Senior Bowl live. So this year we did it. We covered last year as like, we did it. We got to cover them and interview players and stuff like that via the web. But this year we're going down to Alabama. But like these opportunities, you can create your own on your own. So the fact that someone's like, how do I get somewhere? Like, well, you can create your own opportunity. So when I will call you, JP, when I'm down there, and I will let you know how excited I am because I'm finally, we're getting that opportunity that we've all worked for. So guys that have worked under me, um, they're getting that opportunity to go interview the top draft prospects at the biggest event for, for the NFL draft is the Senior Bowl, and these
work?
opportunities you can create on your own.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So, everybody's talking now about, as we sort of now are getting out of COVID, now everybody's looking at what's this next sort of wave of technology. And we're looking at NFTs, right? We're looking at blockchain technology. And really, it's just a mechanism to monetize or sort of monetize, we're looking at it in the collectible space right now, right? What's an NFT, in collectibles. But are we going to get to a point where that's going to be the model of content, like where someone has it and you've got to pay a rights to listen to something? Is that where we're going? I mean, what do you think?
I think there's always going to be something next
Okay.
with this business, and I think it's at the end of the day, it's you know you always have to learn about what's coming next, really, so you can be ahead of the curve where you can, I don't know, capitalize on those kind of spaces, or like I know like Twitter has like these new talking spaces where you can start your own chat and like and people could like now like subscribe to your like everyone can get on their soapbox and listen to you, you know. So it's almost kind of like a podcast thing on Twitter. So that, every different every brand is actually or social media platform is creating their own um, different things. So it's like whether it's reels on IG or like TikTok, everybody's trying to compete for the next space in your eyes, and it's definitely a world of wars out there in terms of trying to get people's attention.
Yeah, I mean, you think of like Clubhouse started, right? Came out, kind
Mhm.
of tried to prove that concept, right? Of And now once they prove the concept to a certain point, and then Twitter and the other platforms come in and say, all right, well, we can do it. we can do it. We're going to do it better. And now here we are. So I guess the question becomes, what's the future for Fourth and Jawn? What's an area that you guys now look at and go, we need to get into this space, or we need to try to do this? And it doesn't have to be on the digital, it could be on anything that revolves your community.
I think, one thing that we'd love to have is our own studio in Philly, somewhere where it's accessible to fans that want to come and do an in-show studio, see an in-show podcast. And, really just, you know, as much as we're everywhere else, I'd still like to have that opportunity for fans to come in and hang out. Before we left Fox the Gambler. We were thinking, well, there was this opportunity that we were going to work with Fox the Gambler, that they were going to have an in-house studio. We'd have like 70 fans that could come and watch the show. Then the pandemic hit, so we were like, that's not happening. So here we are, 2 years later. It's something that again, I've always loved to see, the envision to have your own studio where you can decorate it the way you want, you can make your own, but just having a space that, you can call your own. Right now, the pandemic's still going. I think things are getting a little bit lax these days, but I still think ideally I'd like to have a spot where you can really just show out and have fans interact.
Well, probably most of the folks that are going to be listening to this don't know is that we actually did a remote together the year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. So we did a remote at my retail store. And I love that.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we brought Freddie Barnett in, and we kind of bootstrapped it in the 11th hour, because we're like, oh my God, we're here, and we won. And, so we did it for right before the Vikings game, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that was when it was. Yep. And yeah, I see. So for me as a retailer, I love that model. Like for me, bringing in a guy like you adds value and an experience, to my customers, right? So it brings people in the store, and it just enhances it gives somebody a reason to come into a brick and mortar, when today you don't need it. You can just order something online. You can go on Amazon and it's there, the next day. So for me, like that's the next phase for my business is how do I continue to build events around the passion for sports, and how do we keep doing it? And so I like working with podcasts, and particularly you guys, because I think it's a nice compliment.
Well, I think when you're creating content, people don't realize that, there's a community aspect. And if it all makes sense, and it all makes sense to whether you're a brand or something that you're promoting, and it's a nice marriage of like, it makes sense. Like if you're like, hey man, you're an Eagle fan, you want vintage Eagles gear, I'm gonna go to JP's shop because this guy his place is like, it's like you're going back in time with things that you can't find, and it's almost like a little museum. And then, having that family touch, and like you guys telling stories about like Philadelphia sports is pretty amazing. I'm still a little jealous of your cup collection. I'm gonna have to come in for those, because I didn't forget the Eagles cups with the Eagles helmets on them. So I mean, these are the kind of things I remember, and like if these things all make sense, like people who listen to my show would definitely, go in that store, because I, on the back end, like I don't owe anything to JP, but I'm always like pushing JP's store to anyone that I can listen to, and that will listen to me, because I'm like, hey, you're looking for some hard to find stuff. Here's your guy, check his store out, and send the links. But that's what it's about, the community aspect. It's not like you asked me to do that, but it's a part of like,
Yeah, no, I it's hilarious because you mentioned about, and again, I think the idea here was when we're talking about, the podcast that you created, was really out of a passion for the Eagles and a passion for sports. And that was sort of the goal. The same could be said for my business. So the same could be said where, I started my retail store as an online business, and started the store out of a passion for sports. And my dad, my dad who is retired, and my dad is very much a big part of my business and helps me with it. He and he goes as far as telling my accountant, like, oh, I'd work for free, right? My dad will be in there tonight and he's just watching TV. Like, that store to him is the ultimate man cave, where he just goes and hangs out and watches TV like you would in your basement. And it's kind of, and I always sort of have to remind him, like, wait a minute, Dad, this isn't your basement. This is a business now. Yes, we've taken a hobby and a passion and turned it into a business, but we got to remember that we have customers and we've got to serve customers, and we've got to figure it out. But I agree. I do agree with you that that's when you think about the why, right? We're not doing it for the money. We're doing it because this is something we enjoy doing in our spare time, right? This is something that we enjoy, going. When I'm free, I'm going to the store and I'm working and I'm doing stuff and I'm finding stuff, because I know that there are people that are looking for certain things, and I know that there are people that I have stuff earmarked. We have I shouldn't tell all my secrets here, but you're probably the same way a little bit. I've got a board in the back of our store that just has everybody's wish list, things that I know that, and I've got stuff on my own on this wish list of just like, what's your white whale? What are you looking for? And if I get it, I don't even put it out. I just call them or email them or text them and that's the relationship that we've built with our customers, so that it's like that, to your point, and I appreciate all your support, is, hey, we're kind of the go-to place when it comes to looking for something obscure or rare in that sports space.
And it's funny that we before the show we were talking about just that that I have that kind of interaction with like fans that are always, I might wear something or take a picture online. Someone sees the jacket. Where'd you get the jacket? Where'd you get that hat? Where'd you get, this? And then when you send them a link to something like 5 months down the road, they're like, how did you remember that? I'm like, that's just how my mind works. My mind works that way. I might forget where my keys are, but I'll remember 6 months down the road that some dude from Sacramento is looking for this item. And then, but it's causing those connections and those relationships that are really authentic, that, whether it's about the Eagles or whether it's about them getting an item, it's great to make those connections.
Yeah. And that's kind of what, we're both doing, but you're doing it on the digital side, where you're bringing people together, right? You're bringing communities together. You are I'm doing it through clothing and collectibles, which it gets to a little bit where it gets a little bit on the geeky side of things, where it's like, okay, I'm collecting bobbleheads now, right? Like,
hey man, I think it's the coolest. Hey, you're talking to a nerd himself. I think it's the coolest thing ever.
Oh no, look, trust me. I've got it all in my house too. So like, trust me, my house is, you come into my house and you're like, this guy can't be for real. But what you've been able to do is to build that community of people now, so that if you're going on a away trip or you're going somewhere, right, this is what you guys are known for. And the Eagles are just sort of that vehicle to bring that people together, right?
I just think our fan base is that rabid and crazy, and just them traveling and supporting the team. I think that plays into a lot of you meet a ton of people that travel. I think when we're on the road, one of the wildest things is we don't promote super heavy for, like, I just, like, if you know where the tailgate is, you know where the tailgate is, but like I'll put something out and it's almost like this like, you'll put a post out and a mob of fans will show up out of nowhere. It's like, hey, just saw that post. I pulled into MetLife Stadium parking lot and I saw the post, thought we'd come here. And then it's like this flash mob tailgate where just next thing you know, it's just you and, we have a DJ there. Shout out to DJ Lowski, my guy Prime, and Evan Hearn. And we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden a family of 20 shows up and they're like, hey, we're here for the tailgate. And then there's 60 people and then people are dancing. And then this is this like flash mob tailgate and people just having a good time. And they're just, everyone's just like, how did this happen out of the thin air? But it's, again, everyone's on the same kind of like energy, same kind of, it's almost like when you meet your tribe for the first time. And a lot of Eagle fans or a lot of people that have been working with us or coming to events, they're like, hey man, I finally found my tribe. Like I've heard that a million times. And what that tribe is all about is everyone kind of speaks the same language. Everybody is thinking about the same things. Like, why are we talking about the backup quarterback right now? And why are we nervous about this? Why is my like we're all having these conversations. So when you come to an event and you're having these conversations, when you leave the event, you're like, I want to do this again because I've found people that are interested in the same thing. And whether it's you come to a tailgate or you come to an event and like, hey man, I love that outfit you're wearing, man. Where did you get that? That's a throwback, whatever. What year is that jersey? Like these, and again, these conversations wouldn't be normal to the average fan or normal to anyone outside of this tribe or whatever. But as we speak the same language, that's where the beauty becomes is like, you're like, hey man, you get me, I get you. Let's hang out. Let's support each other. So I think those are some really cool moments.
Yeah. What would you think obviously look, Super Bowl is obviously the top of the mountain for us as Eagles fans, right? I mean, but besides that Super Bowl, experience, what's looking back on it, what was sort of the most memorable experience, related to Fourth and Jawn, or related to just being an Eagles fan?
Well, I mean, for that Super Bowl was on my birthday, so it's very hard to
Okay.
It's hard to beat that. Being on Broad Street with like thousands of people, that was pretty amazing. But we had a tailgate the next year, and we had an actor who recreated the Kelsey speech, looked exactly like him. And he did the whole speech. We built a whole platform, put on the back of a pickup bed truck. And it was the first tailgate after we won the Super Bowl. I said yeah. When we won the Super Bowl, we had the president of the Eagles, Don Smolenski, came out there, had his like fireman's outfit. We donated $10,000 to a Giant fan for his jersey. He had a Giants jersey on the front. The back of the jersey said 0 Super Bowls, and you wore it around.
I know the meme. Yeah, I've seen it. Yes.
The guy's name is License Plate Guy.
Right.
So he did this charity. The money went to Tom Coughlin's Cancer Foundation for Kids. So it was a great cause. Raised over 10,000, and the Eagles themselves donated the last 500 to get us over the 10,000 mark. So everyone came to watch the jersey being burned. So everyone, you just look out, there's a couple thousand people just going, you're just watching watching the jersey being burned. But it was just something so like making something out of nothing, to the fact that fans were excited to be there and film it and just having a great day. It was a great day, and I won't forget it. But it was just like the culmination of like what we worked for, and just to see people enjoy themselves and create a moment. Because you'll talk to people like, hey man, I was there, that day was amazing. And overall it was just a really great experience that I won't forget.
Yeah. I remember seeing videos of the tailgate, and that was hilarious with the guy that played Kelsey and Chris Long and the guy, you had all the actors there.
I was actually Jason Peters, so I had a beard on.
With the Dolphins jersey on.
Yeah. So I mean, it was great, man. And those are the kind of things that you can't like recreate. It's just like you do something and everyone catches the vibe, and that's what they remember. So those are the kind of experiences that we try to create. Whether it's your first time at an Eagles game, or if you're looking for an authentic restaurant that you want to eat at. Like, how many times people ask what cheesesteak they want? You're adding these like I get that question about like 60 times a week during the season.
What's that? Where to go get a cheesesteak?
Yeah, like it's just a ongoing question. So you're always like pushing people to like, what restaurants you go to, like where can I get vintage gear? Like all these questions, you become like the spokesperson for everything Eagles culture. So and I support it.
What's your go-to cheesesteak place?
I go to Ishkabibbles, gyms. We're doing a cheesesteak tour this year.
Okay.
To give a real great answer to this, we're gonna have to try out like 60 plus cheesesteak places. So we're gonna start filming that soon. We're gonna go out to different cheesesteaks places, and again, I'm not gonna, kill someone's business or anything, but I just want to be able to, do a taste test, and then give my own experience on it.
Yeah, I think it's great.
What's your spot?
Well, you know what I do?
Because I felt like you were judging me a little bit when I gave that answer.
No, I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you at all. I've got my preferences, and I also, I'm always interested in hearing people's answers to that question because, it's trendy to say certain places, right? And I always tell people what I always tell people, and what I do with people that come into town that have never had a cheesesteak, I take them to Pat's and Gino's, and I get in line in one place, the other place gets in a line, and I cut the cheesesteaks in half, and I say, I want you to try both, and then you make the decision what you like. And that's what I do. And they say, well, it's a little touristy, isn't it? I go, well, it's touristy for a reason, because for me, those are the places. That's just me. Again, I get all the other Angelos and John's Roast Pork and Jim's, and I get them all. Ishkabibbles, I love Ishkabibbles fries, but like for me, if I'm going to go to a cheesesteak and I don't eat them that often, I'm going to the touristy spot because it's touristy for a reason.
I've recently gone to Phillips, so I've been stopping by Phillips.
Yeah, Phillips. Yeah. Look, they're all good. They're all good. I don't, it's all, at the end of the day, it starts to become just marketing and promotion more than anything. All right, so let's not get off topic here because we could talk cheesesteaks all day long. Being the fat kid that I am here, let's talk a little bit about. All right, so what advice would you have for a student that's looking to start their own podcast? What would be your first thing that you would say to them in terms of starting a podcast?
I would also, before you start a podcast, like you really need to know what your plan of action is. Like when someone doesn't have a plan, they put something out, you can tell that they don't have a plan. Like I mentor a lot of people that are in the podcast game now, or people always, and I've allowed people to ask questions, or I'm always an open book. The more, focused you are on who you are and what kind of content you provide, it comes off that way. If you're just doing this to do this, it definitely shows. If you're passionate about this thing, if you pour your soul into what you're doing, then the right people are going to connect with it. And they're not just connecting with Eagles content, they're connecting it it's from your soul. So if that's whoever you are as a person, that's going to resonate with someone. Like there might be certain demographics. You might be, if people see themselves in you, they like, some people are like, hey, well, there's tons of podcasts out there. Like, yeah, but what do you bring different to the table? So just start thinking about what you bring to the table different, and start today. And the tough part about it, everyone's going to be hard on themselves in the beginning. They're going to be like, why is no one listening? But if what you say resonates with people, they will show up. And if you connect, they will show up, but you have to start somewhere. So this whole idea of like it being a packaged thing when you first start, it's, you're going to go through your ups and downs, but you have to start somewhere. And as you continue to grow, could I see myself speaking to a group of people on a webinar 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago? No. Would I have been probably nervous to not be able to do it 10 years ago? Probably. Yeah. So, but at this point in time, when you speak on something that There's no fear in that. There's no fear in talking about something,
So, some of the feedback I get from students, all the time now is, it's a generation. And what I'm finding is it's a generation of what students or young adults value today is that the idea of having control over their schedule, or the comment is I want to be my own boss. Right. And I always take that with a grain of salt, because I don't think they really understand what that means when they say it. I think they look at it as a benefit that they want, but they don't know how you actually earn and achieve that benefit. Right. What would you say? What would you say is the biggest challenge that you face in your business?
We have a lot of people that, like, content creators that want to put stuff out there, and we have a lot of people that volunteer their time, and I mentor a lot of people. So, people that are trying to put out content. And I think the biggest challenge for me is probably managing people's, I guess, mindsets. And, like, you can't just, not everyone's built different in that character, in that the want to. Not everyone's want to is the same. Some people have an idea of who they want to be as a content creator or writer or whatever, and they're out here putting out content. Like, so you have to, when you're trying to motivate people underneath you to put out content and at your own level, because you're just like, well, I could do this myself, but, like, I'm giving you the opportunity to, put in the work. So I think, when you're managing folks I think that's one of the toughest things, because you're also trying to inspire people to put out content, give them the confidence to put out content. But I think that's one of the toughest things, but at the end of the day, I always really want everyone to succeed that works with me. Like, I always want them to move on and, start their own thing, or turn it into, like, a job. When I see someone get a job in the industry, and I was part of their journey, that's the most rewarding thing for me personally, because that's the feedback that I get from someone that I've helped. They're like, hey man, you helped me get to this moment. And that's invaluable for me.
Yeah. Well, no, you're creating a pay it forward mentality and a community of people that, much like I had in the experience on the professional sports side of things, where, everybody came from somewhere and somebody had to give you your break, and somebody had to then mentor you. And then you become then the mentor of taking somebody else under your wing and hiring that kid out of college to be an intern and grooming them. And, and everybody sort of, you just never know where you're going. And when you get out of that one stage and you move into another. So what would you say if I asked you in terms of characteristics, what do you think is the most important for someone that wants to get into sports? What's the most important characteristic that they have?
I think the ability to do the work. I mean, you have to be ready to do the work, and just be a sponge. Like, some people, they might want to, they might not want to listen, but I think you can take from everybody's experiences. I mean, I took from when I was at NBC Sports, like, being with, like, these high detailed writers, like, it was very intimidating, but I sat back and listened to the criticism, whether it was, but it's, everybody has their own thing that they can give, and bring to the table. So, I just think, having your own thing and believing in what you can bring to the table. I think that a lot of people don't understand that they have a gift, that they can join the conversation and bring an element that someone who's older than you might not understand. Like, I do respect the younger generation of guys out here that are really trying, and girls that are trying to do their own thing, because that's, again, this whole system it's different than it was years ago, and here we are, in a time and place where, some of my idol, like a guy like Derek Gunn, who's not with NBC, like that's a guy that's Derek Gunn, man. Like, it's nowadays everyone wants to create their own platform, which I think is awesome, that you can own your own content. And I feel like it's a real movement amongst younger folks, like, older generation, like, hey, I want to work for, like, and now it's this whole mindset of like, I want to do my own thing. But if you are going to do your own thing, just know that it's definitely a marathon, and you definitely have to be willing to put in the work. And I could see it, like, I've, working with younger, up and coming people. I could, and I tell people that I'm working with, I was like, this guy's going to make it. That guy is not going to make it. This guy has the work ethic. That guy, I don't know what he's doing. But you try to give people nuggets, like the guys that are drifting away, you try to give them nuggets, like, that's what you should do. But overall, I mean, the work ethic is very, very, very important.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I think that's a great advice for anybody that, just when you think the race is over, another one's starting, right? And it never ends. And you can't be short-sighted and think that success is going to happen overnight. It doesn't happen for anybody like that in any role in sports or any walk of life. And so I think that's really good advice in terms of trying to create something and start something from the ground up. You have to be willing to put the time, and you've got to invest in it and live it and breathe it. And I think you guys are a testament to that.
I think one other thing that I'd like to add is storytelling. Like, it's being creative. You might think that we're all adults here, and we're not all about story time, but it's definitely story time. Like, everybody wants to, if you're telling great stories, in the way that you explain something, that if you can tell a story with words that someone could see through a podcast, and they envision what you're like, these things resonate. So if you're a good storyteller and you're creative, like, I wake up every day thinking about, okay, what am I going to post on our socials that might create a conversation amongst my community? So you always have to think outside the box and think like whatever brand you're talking about, whatever subject it is, you have to think like that person. So
awesome stuff. Well, Gail, I really appreciate you coming on today. I was really excited to have you here because I do think you have a great story, and I think you've given and provided some great advice to our students. So thank you very much. Where can people follow you?
We're at 4th and Jawn on all socials. On weekends during the season, we're usually wherever the Eagles are at. So if you ever looking to tailgate and have a good time, we're at right in the Wells Fargo parking lot, G2. But yeah, check us out on 4th and Jawn. My handle on Twitter is at Eagle Sessions. So if you want to talk Eagles, if you want to talk about being a content creator, I'm always open book, always willing to work with anybody and talk about the Birds 24/7.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Take care.
All right, JP. Take care.